Hi, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about OpenAPI specification, what it is, why it is important, where it comes from, and also I give you an overview how you can get one from your Hono application. So, what is OpenAPI spec? It is mainly a standard machine readable format to describe RESTful APIs. And that has two benefits. First of all, a standard makes it easy for humans to read. So fellow developers that want to develop or build on top of your API, it's easier for them to read the OpenAPI specifications than, for example, your code base. And the second one is that also it's machine readable. That means there's a bunch of tooling on top of OpenAPI specification. For example, there is tooling that allows you to generate SDKs in different languages for your API, or documentation tooling, or for example, also Fiberplane Playground is a tool to get interactive with your API. Then also in times of AI, LLMs are also very good in reading those specifications and can build with an OpenAPI specification better than without. If you have an application, machine readable means that you have the format in YAML or in JSON. Here you see some JSON, and the idea here is that it is a description of the different components of your API and also how different things are required and how responses are formed. So how did it all started? Why do we have an OpenAPI specification? It all started in the year 2010 with Tony Dunn, who is the creator and founder of Wordnik. Wordnik is an English dictionary that also tracks usage of words across the internet, and that is still an open source project that is alive. So if you want to read more about it, go to the website and find out. And back then he didn't call it OpenAPI specification, but he wanted to build a specification for Wordnik's API. And the first thing he released was called Swagger specification in 2011. And in 2015, a company called SmartBeer bought the Swagger tooling and the specification and also decided to donate the Swagger specification to an organization called OpenAPI Initiative under the Linux Foundation. And until today, this initiative is responsible for maintaining the OpenAPI specification. And multiple companies can participate, but also individual contributors can participate in deciding on changes of the OpenAPI spec. In 2016, the whole renaming happened, so the initiative decided to rename the Swagger specification to OpenAPI specification, and it was also moved into its own GitHub repo, and that's basically where the conversations and discussions are happening. If people want to have changes, they can open pull requests or issues, and this is discussed, or this is the place where changes are discussed. The consortium then decides if changes are making it into a new version, and by the way, there is no fixed date when new versions are released. It is decided based on the need. So if there would be a lot of changes in the API world, you could be sure that the consortium will release a new version. 2017, the first OpenAPI spec was released under the tag 3.0 because Swagger already had 1.0 and 2.0. OpenAPI spec started directly with 3.0, and in 2021, the version that we now use, OpenAPI spec 3.1, was released, and there has been a few minor patch releases, but until now, this is the version we are working with. So let's look into the different elements of the OpenAPI specification. For example, if you use a tool like the Fiberplane Playground, you can see those nicely outlined. First of all, the specification includes the endpoints of your API and also the different methods you need to call those endpoints. Then, besides the endpoints and methods, it also gives you information about the request body. So it gives you information on the request parameters, what is required, and also what the format of those parameters is. Then, additionally, it also gives you information about the schema, for example, in this case, application JSON. Besides the request schema, you also get information about the response schema. You get information about the parameters that you can expect back, and besides also about the different response codes that the API provides. Additionally, it provides authentication methods and documentation metadata. Okay, how do I get this in Hono? There are three ways of thinking about it. The first one is you haven't thought about it at all when starting developing your application and you already have an existing code base and you need a specification now. There are certain tools out there that helps you to generate an OpenAPI spec from your existing code base. For example, Fiberplane also provides a helper function that gives you a high-level overview of the code that you have written already in OpenAPI. The second way is that you start building an application with OpenAPI in mind. And here you can leverage Zod OpenAPI. And Zod OpenAPI is a wrapper around the Hono class. It extends the Hono class, and you will use Zod validation to describe your input parameters, but you will build your application around that extended class. So your application design will look slightly different. And then there is a middle way that is called Hono OpenAPI. And Hono OpenAPI is very elegant because it leverages existing validation libraries like Zod and Valibot, and then there are some others as well. And you can incrementally start building and describing your OpenAPI spec with Hono OpenAPI as well. Well, in the next videos, we are going to talk more about those implementations. I hope I got you interested in OpenAPI and also in how to build it with Hono. See you the next time.